Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head down to France once again for the first time in what feels like a good long while. Now I know that will excite many of you watching the channel because we've got many viewers from the Francophone world these days, and to be honest, doing a French beer review has been a little bit overdue. Now as I've explained in many reviews before, the difficult thing is actually getting a hold of French beer outside of France. There's some great breweries down there, I know, but actually getting a hold of some of the stuff here in Sweden or back home in Scotland can be very difficult. But bear with me on that. I do plan on doing more French reviews beyond this one. So I have found some web shops and I'll see about ordering from some of those once my current stockpile has depleted a little bit. So keep your eyes peeled for more French reviews. But anyway, for this one, we are going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel twice before. The last two beers that I had from this brewery were very nice, and this is a French brewery that seems to get a very good write-up these days as well. They seem to be very well thought of. So I have to say, I'm curious to see how this one turns out. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review. Hopefully it's a nice beer. And as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to go to a little place called Liverdun near Nancy in the northeast of France. And we're going to have a look at another beer from Piggy Brewing Company. So this one is called Azè Cabana. It comes in at 10% ABV, and this one is a New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, triple IPA. So yeah, we got this beer through the Tillfälligt temporary assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden, and I think it was released actually on the 28th of January, although I'm not sure, it could have been the week before. But yeah, this one was released in January 2021 through Systembolaget here in Sweden as part of their temporary assortment. It seems that we're getting French beers every so often, so I hope that we see a few more from some different breweries as well. But yeah, nice to return to these guys. The first beer I had from these guys was called Last Call to Lupulin Island. That was a New England IPA of some description. I forget if it was double or whatever. But then we had the Jakarta Trip, which was a really interesting one as well. An imperial stout, a kind of pastry stout type thing. So yeah, we're going to return to the lighter side of the spectrum for this, and hopefully this is as good as Last Call to Lupulin Island. But yeah, as I say, very cool to finally do a French beer review for you on the channel after the whole Joica thing. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. The Azè Cabana, 11% New England Triple IPA from Piggy Brewing Company in Liverdun, Grand-Est-France, near Nancy. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Piggy Brewing Company before, and hopefully we can add some more to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the French beers that I've reviewed for you, and that's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, but not as often as I would like. Hopefully we can fix that in the future. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Piggy Brewing Company then. So Piggy Brewing Company, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in a little place called Liverdun in Grand-Est-France, which is a small medieval and resort town near Nancy in the northeast of the country. So the brewery was founded back in 2016 by Roman Bach and Piero Fechtig, and Roman and Piero started homebrewing together in about 2009, and they gradually developed recipes over the next few years before officially founding the company in 2016. So they initially brewed their beers under contract at the IFBM, which is the Institute for Brewing and Malting of France. And then later, they brewed some beers at Hoppy Road Brewery in Maxiville, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I do apologise for any bad French pronunciations. But a little bit later on, in 2018, Lorenzo Gamba, who is another home brewer, joined the company along with his brother Thibault, who is a Michelin chef. So their beers proved to be very, very popular, and then they were able to invest in their own brewery, and they settled on Liverdun as the location in 2019. So the brewery is equipped with a 20 hectolitre brew kit, 2,000 litres, and they've been gradually expanding the fermentation capacity over the last few years, so they can now produce about 5,000 hectolitres of beer per year. So that's about 500,000 litres, 500,000, whatever you want to say. But the brewery can be found in one of the old warehouses of Madeleines de Liverdun, and it has a floor space of 1,300 square metres. So they chose an English name for the brewery because they said they've been greatly influenced by the English breweries and their kind of beer styles that they've been doing. But the idea is that people can be, quotes, fat in spirit and enjoy good beer and good food, and the pig is supposed to embody this kind of jovial spirit of, you know, being happy, having good food, good alcohol and things like this. So yeah, as of January 2022, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 200 different kinds of beer, according to Untappd. And yeah, they are one of the more recognisable French craft beer brands these days. There's a few different ones starting to get out there, like Popine and Piggy and things like that. So yeah, there are some very good. I think Prism is the other one that I've seen a few beers from as well. So yeah, there are some of the kind of more American style French breweries starting to get out there. But there are some very, you know, I've known about that French beer has been very good for quite a wee while. But yeah, as I say, French craft beer is very difficult to get outside of France. So I think I need to get a few beer mules in France who can organise boxes for me, and I send them cash and things like that. Either that or I'll just order from La Bibliothèque or something like this. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. But as I say, I do have more plans for French reviews in the near future. But yeah, that's everything I can tell you about Piggy Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And you can, of course, check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that Piggy Brewing Company have done. So yeah, to tell you a little bit about this beer, as I mentioned to you already, this one, I think actually I told you this was 10%, it's actually 9%, so I do apologise for that actually, I just noticed on the can there. So yeah, this is a 9%er, not a 10%er. But the hops in this one are Simcoe, Idaho 7, Talus and Columbus. So all of these hops, as we know, are American. Columbus comes in about 12-13% alpha acid, normally used as a bittering hop. It's got quite a distinctive kind of spicy floral aromatic character to it. Simcoe, as we know, is about 12% alpha acid as well. It gives you, in New England IPAs, it gives you a lovely kind of soft, juicy passion fruit. Idaho 7 gives you I think that's 14% alpha acid, incidentally. That gives you lots of lovely soft tropical notes like apricots, pineapples, and papayas and stuff like this. And Talus is quite an interesting one. So Talus is derived from oh, that one's gone. Sabro. Sabro. It's derived from Sabro. So it has this kind of interesting sort of pink grapefruity character to it from what I remember. It's got a very kind of bright grapefruit. But yeah, this one I think should be really nice. So as I said to you, this one is a 9% New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, triple IPA. So Azè Cabana. Looks very, very good. Plain silver top on the top of the can there. I paid a little bit more for this one. I think this one cost me about 70 Swedish kroner, and that's because it's a triple, obviously. But yeah, 70 Swedish kroner is roughly about €7. That translates to roughly about £6 sterling, and I guess somewhere in the region of like $8 for those of you watching over in America. So yeah, a few things a few things there for you, but that gives you a rough price comparison. But yeah, I hope we can get some more French beers soon. But 440ml can, this one. Let's get it out into the glass and see how we get on. This should be very good. Yeah, and hopefully this beer is in pretty good condition. So let's look at it. It does seem to have a very high rating on Untappd as well. So yeah, I do have high hopes for this one. I think for the moment, before we actually taste the thing, that's a good amount to just have a look at for the aroma and stuff like this. So yeah, we have about 80% of the beer in the glass at the moment, but that should be enough. So before the head disappears, you can see that this beer has poured with roughly a half finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head. It's got a nice kind of foamy ring around the edge of it. But yeah, that is just fading away to be a little bit of a light kind of foamy layer. There's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. But I mean, overall, there's nothing really surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance, to be quite honest with you. So, as you can see, I would say this one's poured a lovely, kind of very deep, rich yellow colour. I always like comparing these New England IPAs to different fruit juices, because that's just what the the appearance reminds me of. So this one is a little bit like a kind of it's like a mango and passion fruit sort of, it's like a mango and passion fruit sort of tropical fruit juice you get in this one. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malts that you use, 2, the length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, and the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do or any adjuncts that you put in will affect the colour as well, but in the case of New England IPAs you normally don't have to care about that. And the level of haze in this one for a 10%er, you know, it is pretty soupy and gloopy, and you would expect that for a 9%er. Sorry, I keep doing that, saying that this beer is 10%, but remember the level of haze depends on the yeast and the oak content and the wheat content. This can vary from brewery to brewery and recipe to recipe, so there's not really a rule about this, if you like. But yeah, it certainly looks like a very nice beer, I have to say, and you know, this is basically what you would expect from this style. So yeah, nothing else we really need to say about the appearance of this beer. Let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on. Yeah, this should be quite nice. Ooh, yeah, that does smell pretty good actually. And it smells as if it's in pretty good condition as well. As I've always said to you, looking at the oats in the aroma is always a good indicator of how old the beer is. And with this being an import beer, it will have sat for, you know, a couple of weeks in a warehouse and in transport and stuff like this. So that's one of the things you've always got to be aware of in Sweden, is when you buy foreign beer, it will sit in Systembolagets warehouse for a week or two before it's out on the shelf, and that's something I do think they need to streamline a little bit. I've said this in various videos, but yeah, on the aroma side of things, this beer is very, very nice. My first impression of it is a very soft, bready, and quite juicy New England IPA. So yeah, as I've explained to you before, for me there are 6 different elements of New England character that you need to look at. The sort of farmhousey, yeasty side of things, the rye, lean and grainy side of things, although that's more common in American brewed variants of this style. The wheaty bitiness, the oaty creaminess, the barley malt kind of breadiness, and also the kind of sweetness that you can get in these beers as well. So like I said, my first impression of this beer is as quite a soft, kind of bready, barley malty type beer, but there is a fair wee bit of wheat in the back of the nose with this one. So yeah, for me, backbone of this beer, you can definitely smell a little bit of a kind of soft, like fresh bread kind of, yeah, a little bit of that kind of hedgehog baguette sort of crusty sort of thing to it. You've got soft white bread on top of that. As I said, you can smell the wheat just thickening it out a little bit, but there is a wee bit of a kind of wheaty bitiness at the back of the nose. But you can also get a wee bit of a kind of smooth, oaty creaminess to this one as well. So yeah, bit of bread crust, white bread, thicker wheaty notes, bit of wheaty bitiness, and a wee bit of oaty character. All of these things are quite common in this. But I think the more that you smell of this beer, the kind of thicker it gets. And one thing I will say about this beer, I think this one is on the kind of very edge of its prime, if you like, because with the oats, the thing you'll always notice about oats in New England IPAs, the younger the beer is and the fresher it is, the kind of more smooth and creamy they smell. As the beer gets a little bit older, you can smell the oats kind of dry out a little bit, and you can I'm starting to smell that in this one. You can smell the start of that beginning in this beer, that the oats are just getting a wee bit dry, but they still have an element of creaminess to them, which is nice. So on top of that, there's a little bit of how do you say, there is a wee bit of yeah, there's a wee bit of a kind of, I do get a little touch of a Werther's Original kind of butter candy, butterscotchy sweetness out of this one, but not that much, to be honest with you. At 9%, you might expect a wee touch more sweetness out of this, but this one strikes me as being, the more that I smell of it, the more oatiness I get out of it. I think that's fair to say. So maybe this is going to be a little bit more of a kind of old school, maybe it's going to be a little bit more of a sort of old school kind of, yeah, an old school sort of Werther's Original butter candy, an old school kind of oaty creamy sort of New England IPA, this one. So yeah, maybe going back to the sort of 2015, 2016 kind of era with this style. Brain fart there. But yeah, it does smell nice on the malty side of things actually, and it's got a lovely kind of bready backbone to it, so I'm curious to see how that translates into the flavour. So on the aroma side of things then, on the aroma, this beer, I would say, is quite On the hoppy side of things, there's a little bit of earthiness in this one. There's a nice wee bit of a kind of floral aromaticity, absolutely. So yeah, nice little tiny bit of earthiness in there. I think that's most likely to come from the Columbus, to be honest with you. I think what they'll have been doing with this one is that Columbus will be the hop that's added in the Whirlpool. So remember, New England IPAs tend to rely on late addition hops within the last half hour of the wort boil, or dry hopping after the wort boil. So you know these things give a lot of they give a lot of flavour and aroma, whereas the early addition hops in the early part of the wort boil, those are the ones that give a lot of bitterness and things like that. So yeah, those are more common in West Coast IPAs. You use those in addition to late addition and dry hopping in West Coast IPAs. So yeah, I suspect Columbus, just going from the green component of this, because it does have a big, deep, slightly spicy floral aromaticity to it, I suspect that Columbus has been used as the Whirlpool hop in this one. But there is a fair little bit of grassiness to it as well, and that kind of makes sense actually. Now, the actual fruity aroma of this beer is pretty much all tropical. There's not really a kind of, citrusy side to this one, if that makes sense. So for me, you can smell the big, sharp, bright pink grapefruits from Talus, absolutely. That comes out of the beer right on the kind of top of the nose, right at the front of the nose, if you like. So I do really like that about this beer. Talus is a very interesting hop. Yeah, Strat is another one that I quite like as well. But yeah, those are two of the newer hops that have been going about recently. But yeah, you can smell that very kind of bright pink grapefruity sort of thing from Talus. So yeah, that comes out of the beer right away. But once your nose adjusts to that and gets over the punchiness of this pink grapefruit, under that you can start to get the softer, more passion fruity notes of the Simcoe. But Idaho 7's given this beer a little bit more kind of complexity. I mean, you can smell a wee bit of juicy pineapple, a little bit of a kind of softer, a wee bit of that softer kind of apricot papaya type thing in there as well. But yeah, I think that the Talus for me is the one that's taken the lead on the fruity side of things, and the other two are kind of adding a bit more depth to it. So that's interesting as well. So yeah, Talus in the forefront, Simcoe and Idaho 7 taking a little bit more of a kind of back seat, if you like. So yeah, I really like how that goes together for sure. This is a nice smelling beer, I have to say, and it's still in good condition, which I'm pleased with, because sometimes with some of these beers, they sit in the warehouse for too long. Quite honestly, in Sweden, if you're getting beers that are not Swedish or Danish or Norwegian, you're actually better to get the darker ones than the IPAs, to be quite honest with you. So just keep that in mind. Sour beers are usually okay as well, in fairness. But yeah, let's get started with this one then and see how we go. So this one is the Azè Cabana, a 9% New England Hazy Triple IPA, whatever you want to call it, from Piggy Brewing Company in Liverdun in Grand-Est-France, near Nancy, in the northeast of the country. Very cool to be able to finally do a French review for you after the whole Joica thing. So let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål, cheers, santé. Let's do it. Yeah, it's pretty nice. First impression of it, it feels very clean. It's got a very kind of clean mouthfeel to it, and I'm surprised at this one. This is one of these beers where the malty base is quite a bit different from what I was thinking it would be from the aroma. It has got a bit more of an oak presence to it than the aroma would have you believe. So yeah, this one is going to be a little bit different from its aroma, but it's a nice beer, I'll say that straight away. Well done to Piggy Brewing Company once again. But I'm not surprised, because Last Call to Lupulin Island was pretty good. So, yeah, yeah, lovely, very clean, quite wet and juicy New England IPA, this one. Like I say, it gets a thumbs up for me. I'm not surprised at the quality of French beer. Quite honestly, when you go through the European countries, I mean, Spain, Portugal, Slovenia, Greece, France, these countries that are known for their, and Italy as well, these countries that are known for their wine production, when they try their hand at craft beer, it always tends to go pretty well for them. And I think it's just because of, in these countries people have good flavour palates, so they know what a good beer should taste like. So yeah, it's always exciting to see winemaking countries having a go at beer. There's some really good stuff coming out of Romania these days as well, and they've got a lot of good wines. New Zealand's another example a bit further away. The other thing I'll say about this is it's a bit dangerously drinkable for a 9%er. That is stupidly easy drinking, that one. So yeah, it's good. So anyway, let's break the flavour down and describe it for you a wee bit, as we always do. So middle of your palate then, straight away across the middle and back third of your palate, you get a nice wee bit, you do get a nice little bit of a kind of bread crusty note in there. So you can feel that grainy bread crusty character just sitting there forming the backbone of the beer. I will say it is a little bit more grainy than I expected it to be from the it is a wee bit more grainy than I expected it to be from the flavour, or from the aroma, definitely. So, yeah, as I say, there's a little bit of kind of graininess underpinning the backbone of this beer. And on top of that, you can feel the nice kind of white bready character. So we'll focus on the middle third of your palate just now. So yeah, a wee bit of quite a grainy, dry underpinning to this one. On top of that, as I say, good little bit of white bread in there. And then on top of that, you've got a thicker wheaty layer, and you can feel that the wheat is actually playing quite a big role in this beer. We'll come back to the wheat later. So yeah, bread crust, soft white bread, thicker wheaty character. Then on top of that, you've got the big kind of oaty notes there. So the oaty character, it's like down the middle line of your tongue, you can feel the oats are a little bit more dense, and then as you move out toward the edge of your palate, you can feel it does have a wee bit more of a kind of soft, creamy, sweet character to it. So that's pretty interesting in this one as well. I do like that for sure. And yeah, I think, as I was saying, I think this New England IPA really, it strikes me as being quite similar in its profile to some of the 2016, 2017 kind of era Swedish New England IPA. So that's to say it really leans more towards, it really takes a more kind of bready, wheaty, oaty approach rather than having a bit of sweetness in it. I've noticed that in recent times the heavier New England IPAs have been a little bit sweeter with like Werther's Original, butter candy sort of flavours in it. So yeah, you can, if you go to the very dead centre of your palate, in the middle of all that oaty character, there's a little dot in the middle there that has a wee bit of that more kind of concentrated butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing. So yeah, I do like how that how that goes together in this one. But yeah, the way that this beer goes about its business is definitely a little bit more old school than some of the other ones I've had. I'm trying to remember what the last call to Lupulin Island was like, if it was a bit more bready, but this one certainly is. What I would say is that the beer, it could do with just a little touch of sweetness in the middle of the palate, because it is quite boozy, and I think you can feel that a wee bit. And it's just me, if I'm going to have an imperial of any description, like a double or a triple, I do want it to feel a little bit more boozy, and I think having a wee bit of sweetness in the beer kind of lets you know that a little bit more, whereas this one, you can feel the booziness in it, but it's just not quite as smoothened out, if you like, as you might have if you put a little bit of Golden Promise or a wee bit of Cara Munich malt or something like that in this. I think this beer needs just a little touch of sweetness just to round it off in the middle of the palate a wee bit more. But yeah, it's still pretty nice. It is like quite an old school, as I say, New England IPA. And I used to make this comment actually back. I always thought with the original New England IPAs, once you got to about 8% or so with these, I always felt you had to have a little bit of sweetness in them to take them higher than that. And I think this one kind of shows that, why I used to say that a little bit, because this is a pure sort of bready, oaty, wheaty kind of thing that you're getting out of this one. So this is an interesting one. This is definitely making me think, but that's to take nothing away from the quality. It is a well done beer, this one, but yeah, as I say, it could just do with a little touch of sweetness, I think. Although in fairness to it, the more that you drink of it, it does get a little touch of sweetness in the middle of the palate. But yeah, that is worth kind of bearing in mind. Yeah, the sweetness of this does build up a little bit. So maybe I have to sit on that comment. I just need to see. But this is one of the reasons why I like doing slightly longer reviews, because you let the beer open up a wee bit more. But on that note, I think we've said everything we need to about the middle third of the palate. Let's look at the back third of the palate then. So the border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of a bready build up there. You can feel that wee bit of bread crust and things. Base of the back third of the palate, there's definitely a wee touch of there's a little bit of a more kind of bread crusty. There's a wee bit of a more sort of bread crusty, grainy sort of thing to it. Nice little bit of a kind of wheaty, little bit of as I say, a little bit of bread crust. You get a slightly thicker bready layer there as well. So the bready layer in this one is quite a bit taller, but there's a lot of kind of wheaty bitiness in there. The wheat actually comes across as a little bit almost spicy in this beer. So yeah, this one does have a wee bit of that as well. But then sitting on top of all of that, you're getting the yeasty character out of this beer. And it's interesting because it does have a wee bit of a kind of grainy, farmhousey, woody, crackery sort of thing going on. So yeah, I like how this beer goes about its business in that sense. So yeah, sitting on top of that kind of wheaty layer, sitting on top of the wheaty layer, the bread crusty, the kind of yeasty character there is quite. It has got a wee bit of a kind of peppery spice, a wee bit of a crackery, woody sort of thing to it. But yeah, that sits on top of the wheat at the back of the palate there, but the wheat does just give this beer a wee bit of bite and a wee bit of almost spicy character, so that's really interesting. But on the back third of your palate, you can definitely notice that the flavour is taller. So you start on the back third of your palate and you move further forward. Then as you move into the middle third of your palate, the flavour condenses down a little bit, and then these flavours are a wee bit more kind of squashed together. So yeah, I like how that goes together in this one. The malty side of this beer is quite interesting. Like I say, a little bit more like an old school, straight up bready, wheaty, oaty kind of New England IPA, this one. But let's focus on the hoppy side of things then. So back corners of the palate, there's definitely a wee bit of earthiness in there. And as you move further forward, it very quickly starts to show you that big Columbus spiciness. I'm pretty sure there will be a little bit of early edition hop in here, but probably I think Columbus is most likely to have been used as the whirlpool hop in this, if we can call it that. A little bit of early edition, but a bit more later edition, I guess we could say. So you get a nice kind of spicy floral aromaticity out of this beer, which is really nice. And then round the front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and more sort of grassy, I guess we could say. So yeah, the way that this goes together, I think, on the green component is quite nice, and the sort of spiciness that the beer has is quite in keeping with the wheaty bitiness that the beer has too. So that works. That definitely works. On the fruity side of things then, so the beer definitely has a little bit of a kind of oily character to the fruit, but I like that. But we'll focus on that front third of your palate then. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again, you get a little bit of a bready build up in there. You get a wee bit of bread crust, and the base of that front third of your palate is like a soft white bread. But on top of that, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer, and it's quite similar to what I was picking up in the aroma actually. So at the back of that front third of your palate, you can definitely feel the talus, that big, slightly punchy, pink grapefruity character there. So it's the talus that's the kind of most punchy of the hops, and the fruity character, as I say, is very similar to what we picked up in the other part of the beer. But yeah, nice little bit of a pink grapefruity character in there. And so as you move further forward, you get a little bit of the more punchy passion fruit from the Simcoe in this, so you can feel that wee bit of a punchy passion fruity character from the Simcoe. And then as you move further and further forward, you get a little bit of mango, and then you start to get all the softer characters coming out from the Idaho 7. So yeah, you get a wee bit of a pineapple, you get a wee bit of pineapple, you get a wee bit of pineapple, a wee bit of mango, a wee bit of apricot and papaya and stuff like this. So the further you go into the aftertaste with this beer, you start to get these more kind of dry tropical fruits. But then you get a wee bit of a more oily pineapple just right on the kind of tip of the tongue with this beer, if you like. So that's quite interesting. So yeah, the way that this beer goes about its business in that sense is very nice. So yeah, a little bit of an oily pineapple, soft apricot, mango and things like that, and a wee bit of you know, pink grapefruit and everything. It's these hops, if you know these hops, it kind of shows you that nicely. But yeah, pink grapefruit, punchy passion fruit, apricot, mango, pineapple, and all of these kind of things. So yeah, just getting out there. I like the way that Talus just really started to kind of push forward in this one, and it's nice. I just remember that this big punchy pink grapefruit sort of thing. So yeah, I keep mixing up my passion fruits and my grapes. I keep having so many brain farts in this review, guys. But yeah, I think that rounds off everything we need to say about the flavour of this beer. Let's just finish off the review with a look at the mouthfeel then. So this beer for me, it's definitely at the top end of mid-bodied. The carbonation is very smooth in this one. It feels like it's got a very kind of clean, almost slightly slick mouthfeel to it. So that's quite interesting actually. I'm not sure I can't remember how mountainous that sort of region, the Grand-Est-France, the kind of Nancy area in France actually is. But yeah, it almost feels a little bit like it's mountain water or something that's in this beer, which I do quite like. So yeah, you've got a wee bit of that going on, which is good. Yeah, you've got a wee bit of that going on, which is nice. And then I would say, in terms of IBUs, what could we say about this beer? I think this is a little bit more than the standard 30. Yeah, I think this beer has a little bit of yeah, I think it has got a little bit of a 40, 50 IBU sort of thing to it. I think, yeah, about 50 IBUs. I think the Columbus is really giving you a bit of that kind of IBU bitterness, but then you've also got that wheaty bitiness and yeasty kind of thing going on, which is interesting. So yeah, I think about 50 IBUs in this one, and I think when you have a double or an Imperial New England, you want a little bit more bitterness out of it. I think you just kind of have to do that. But obviously nowhere near as bitter as the old school West Coasters were. But yeah, in terms of the malty side of things, like I say, it's quite smooth, it's got a bit of graininess to it, doesn't really have any real sweetness, but then the fruity side of the beer is 100% tropical pretty much. You've got a little bit of punchy pink grapefruit to it, and you've also got the kind of softer tropical notes in there as well. But yeah, another very, very solid French craft beer, this one. So I hope we can get a hold of some more French craft beers from different breweries that I've not tried yet as well, and review those on the channel for you over the next little while. But in fairness, there does seem to be a fairly steady stream of French things coming through Systembolaget. Maybe every month there's one or two French beers, and I will do my best to review those on the channel for you. But like I say, I do want to review more French stuff. But yeah, definitely cool to return to Piggy Brewing Company. For those of you that are interested in French craft beer and don't know much about of it, probably the most accessible breweries for you will be the likes of Piggy, Prism, Polpine. I think these are the three craft breweries that are really starting to get out there a little bit more. But yeah, this was very nice. A kind of old school sort of 2016, 2017 kind of era New England IPA for me, this one. 9%, quite easy to drink actually too, which is a bit dangerous. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. So yeah, this one is the Azè Cabana, a 9% New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, triple IPA from Piggy Brewing Company in Liverdun, Grand-Est-France, near Nancy, in the northeast of the country. Thank you again for watching. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Piggy Brewing Company. Do give me some French craft brewery recommendations. I always like those, so I can keep an eye out for them and see what I can get. But yeah, thank you for watching. Check out my social media, check out Piggy Brewing Company's social media, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and hopefully more French beers to come very, very soon. Catch you guys later.